Thank you. Good evening, students. How are you all doing? So many students already joined in. Very wonderful. I could see a lot of enthusiastic students already joined in and ready to kickstart. So many people from North and South. Excellent. Please let me know if my voice is clear. And once you give me a go ahead, we are good to start. Good evening, all the students. It's wonderful to see such a great support and such a great attendance of you students. It's been like, I could see SRO from South, CRO from Central, NRO from North, and SRO all from all locations. Students have joined in. Really happy that we are all looking forward for these classes. Yes, voice is clear. That's nice. Very good. So you're all appearing for the November 2023 exams, right? That is the basic assumption. So if you're preparing for the May 2024 and you're joining now, I think that is even more good. But you might have to update your updates for November for the May 2024. But otherwise, this session is specially for November 2023 batch. And I'm seeing a lot of students still joining in. Let them join in. Then we'll start with the introduction of myself and introduction of yourself. Then we'll get at the introduction of the subject. Okay. Great. I'm seeing so many students joining in from all the places. That's nice. So the advantage of these online classes, which is there by the institute, is that you could complete your work if you're doing your articleship, finish off your articleship, then come and join for these classes so that it doesn't disturb your articleship. Practical training is also very much important. I had also gone through my practical training internship, and it was really helpful. That's the reason why I'm standing now, why I'm here at this position. So that's very important that you take up your articleship very seriously. And I will tell you that's the best part of your life, because you will cherish your articleship forever. That's the time when you don't have the actual pressure. What pressure you feel now is not the pressure, because it's just that the responsibility is not on you. The responsibility is on your manager or your senior. So articleship time is the best time. Enjoy it completely. Great. So we'll start with basic introduction. Myself, I am CA Deepak Jain. So I am by qualification a chartered accountant and a company secretary. So I have qualified my chartered accountancy in November 2008, and sometime in 2010 I also cleared my company secretary. So company law is also a subject which I have interest in. After 2008 till 2010, I was in employment, and from 2011, I have started my own practice. And it's been like 13 years now. 13 years I've been into practice. Mostly it's been the journey's been into practice of started with audit, because I had done my articleship in audit. So the advantage of doing articleship in auditors is you get coverage of a lot of things. You get to know the laws, which as an auditor you have to see. So you get knowledge of so many laws. That helped me to really look into the various laws and have a broad-based approach. From there, I moved on to indirect taxes. So I was working in STPI, service tax, and to some extent customs matters. This was a firm in Bangalore. And after that, I had started my practice in Bangalore. We had started working with audit, then we took up accounting, and then we had slowly moved into indirect taxes. So then there was a sudden wind which blew across in 2015-16, wherein they said that all these taxes, whatever you have read, will all go off and will give introduction of a new law, which will be called as GST. So all the laws, whatever you have read, will all get wiped away, and a new law will come, which will be called as a Goods and Service Tax Act. So that's when the preparation started in 2015. There were a lot of discussions happening in 2016. Actually you would see that the draft version of this law came in various bits and pieces. There were a lot of changes. I would say our institute has contributed tremendously for the development of GST. We used to give white papers, used to give suggestions. That's how the GST law developed. Okay, and that's how we have moved from the old law to the GST law, and we are seeing that all of us are in the same page from 2017 when the GST law came into force. That everybody, it could be of a senior or a junior, everybody has to start from the scratch. So that's what it says. No, change and learning should always be there. So if you're ready to learn, then if you're open to learn, then you can learn new things. If you're closed, then you're closed. So you should always have an open mindset, always be ready to learn. Even if you become a manager or a partner or a director of a company, don't stop this learning journey. Always keep learning, because learning will make you always active and being, really a human. We're not other than humans that we are sitting idle and doing nothing. We keep doing something. So learning, if there is a learning, then you become a good human being and a good person. More than being a good chartered accountant, it is important that you become a good person. So with that brief introduction about myself, we'll see what are we going to cover. So with the structure of the classes, my classes will be on the Mondays, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. If I'm not wrong, yes, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. My classes will go on till the June 14th. Okay, so I will be covering the topic, this introduction, the taxable event, which is the supply, very, very important topic, charge of GST, and exemptions from GST. So I'll cover up till the exemptions from GST. Then in the month, then other chapters will be taken up by another faculty, which the institute has recognized. Once he covers up his part, then I'll come back again for 2 sessions on the problem solving sessions, which will be on the July 19th and 21st. The intention is that we cover up the basics of exemption till June 14th. Then there'll be other chapters. Then if you do problem solving session, then it will give you a holistic picture, right? So that when you do a problem solving, you know that which chapter, what you have learned, the theoretical thing will be implemented in a practical way. So that's the reason we'll be covering up. Okay, so I'm not seeing any more responses. Just a moment. I'm not getting questions on the chat box. Yeah, so last was at 6:10. After that, there is no questions. Nothing. Okay, fine now. Okay. So thank you. Thank you. So that is the basic structure of our classes. Questions you could pose in, so that at periodic time I will take up questions and discuss and probably try to give the best answer. And this topic on paper 4 on taxation, 60 marks is direct taxation and 40 marks is indirect taxation. If you have really a keen interest, if you read it like a story, indirect tax is more practical. Of course, I would say taxation, the paper itself is practical because you will actually apply in your day-to-day affairs, right? It could be that you have to pay taxes, your friends have to pay taxes, for whom you have to file returns, right? So it is very, very practical subject. It becomes so very easy to get connected. We want to read it as though we are going to live with it. Like if you're going to watch a movie, you keep deeply involved in it. So anytime after the movie, even after 5 years or 6 years, if you ask for the story, you remember, right? Because you're deeply involved in it. So similarly, this is the paper where you can get deeply involved yourself. So once you're involved, you'll have keen interest, and then it becomes easy. Once you start liking the subject, right, then it becomes very easy. It'll be tough, no doubt, but you can sail it through. It doesn't be tough enough that you don't clear it. It will be tough enough for you not to get 100 out of 100, but you could get a better mark, right? 90 or 80, that's a good mark, right? So it'll be good to pull you out from your other subjects also, because there are some subjects which don't cross like 50s and 60s. So this will be a subject which can pull up the other subjects, right? So this is a very good practical subject we should read for. Notes, yes, you should maintain notes on the important points. I will be sharing my presentations before the classes. Today I didn't present because this was an introduction, but all my presentations will be available before the classes so that you have it with you and you can prepare and rush through it. And if there is something else, you can take notes over there. Okay. Which all taxes were removed before introduction to GST? I have a slide on that, so you will get to know on which all taxes were removed. Does this book have never amendments for November 2023? If not, how do you do it? So amendments, the study material will have it. Apart from the study material, you have on the Board of Studies website itself, portal itself, a section on supplementary notes. The supplementary notes, you will be able to get it on the BOS portal. So once you see the BOS portal, then you'll be able to see the additional amendments, because what happens is you have a Finance Act. Okay, the Finance Act is passed in November 2000, in February 2021, then in February 2022, and in February 2023. So every year the Finance Act is presented. The Finance Bill is presented first, then the bill gets approval from both the houses. Okay, so if both the houses approve it, then it goes to the President's assent. Once the President gives his assent, then the bill becomes an act. Okay, so it is a finance bill at the time of the budget presentation by the finance minister. And once the finance minister presented, it goes to both the houses of the parliament. After going at both the houses of the parliament, the president gives his assent. Once the president gives his assent, the act is passed as a bill, right? So this the act always, does the bill, the bill becomes an act. So does the bill and the act have to be same? Not necessarily. Most of the provisions would be same, but if the discussion in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, that's the reason they do a discussion saying that no, this provision needs to be changed, this provision needs to be corrected. Then you see the fine print which comes, the act, the Finance Act which comes in, that's the final version of the budget, what discussion has happened. So this Finance Act of every year is implemented, right? Like when you see your income tax rate changes, that is approved in the Finance Act. But what happens is, with respect to indirect taxes, the Finance Act has changes with respect to the provisions of the GST law. But does it get implemented as soon as the Finance Act is implemented? No. It has a clause saying that the provisions of this act will get implemented as a notified date, right? So they will notify a date when the specific sections will get enacted, or when the specific sections gets changed. Why so? But in income tax, we've seen that the changes is happening as soon as the finance bill is passed. But why is it not so in GST? There is a reason, right? The GST law is not an individual law, right? You have a central GST law called as a Central Goods and Service Tax, and then each state has a State Goods and Service Tax. So you have CGST and the SGST of the respective states. So this act, what is there in the CGST, is similarly there in all the states. Okay, so if I make changes in, say, Section 9 of the CGST Act, CGST, which is the Central Goods and Service Tax Act, a similar change has to happen in Section 9 of the State Goods and Service Tax Act. Why so? Because, say, Central Goods and Service Tax Act and the respective states Goods and Service Tax Act go hand in hand. Okay, the 99.5%, I would say, of the provisions are same, except 0.5%, wherein some states have made some changes in some machinery provisions, but otherwise, all the provisions of the CGST Act and the SGST Act are same. So when a Finance Act has been passed here, the respective states also have to change their act, correct? Because there can't be disparity between this and this. So both the acts have to be same. So when a CGST Act is amended, the respective SGST Act also has to get amended. Okay. So when this gets amendment, passing of the amendment of the CGST Act, we know the procedure: Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, then the President's Asset. But that's not the same with the State Act. State will have to form a session should be held, and they have to get it approved in their legislative assembly, in their state-wise assemblies. They have to pass. Some state may have legislation assembly session, or it may not be there. So each state have to pass it. That takes time. So by the time all the states give their assent, then itself this notification will come in, wherein they will say that yes, this section is effective from a particular date. So that's the reason you will see that in your supplementary updates, you'll see that a lot of provisions of Finance Act 2021 also is applicable now, because that got notified only now. Okay, so it gets notified now. That's the reason that's how the date is relevant for you. Okay, so any section of the Finance Act which is notified before April 2023 will be relevant for you. So provisions of the Finance Act 2022, if some sections of the Finance Act 2022 is not yet been notified, then it will not be relevant for you. So what are all those notifications which is relevant will be mentioned in the supplementary material. So just giving a brief on why and what sections are relevant and how does it come. So hope you're clear that why some provisions of the Finance Act 2021 and 22 are also applicable now. Okay, so other thing is budget 2023. You know that budget 2023 was there on the 1st of February, but still it is not applicable to you, because that the provisions of that Finance Act 2023 will get notified at a later point of time, and which if it's just notified after April 2023 will not be applicable for. Clear? So there is another thing called a statutory update. What is the statutory update? So if there's any changes in the law, okay, those changes will be mentioned in the statutory update. Provisions of the CGST Act are both for state and union territories. Yes, very nice question, Bhumika. The provisions of the CGST Act and the provisions of SGST Act, and you have a union territories also. So the provisions of the state are guided by the state GST laws, and the union territories are guided by the union territory GST laws. So respective union states will have state GST, and union territories will have their respective union territory GST law. So that's why the provisions of CGST, SGST, and UTGST will be the same. Okay. Ms. Varsha, for November 2023, which Finance Act will be applicable? November 2021 and November 2022. November 2023 will not be applicable for you, because I think that's more of an academic question now, because any notifications passed up till April 2023 will be relevant for your exams. It could be of any Finance Act, but as a matter of fact, I know that February, 2023, okay, Finance Act 2023 is not yet been notified, so those provisions will not be applicable for you. Okay, so let's get into our basic course. Hope till now everything is clear, right? You don't have any questions. If you have, you could just pose it now. Do indirect tax require learning or understanding is required? Not necessarily. You don't need any kind of practical experience in this subject. The theoretical thing also has some practical aspects of it. So you understand the provisions. If you understand the provisions, that itself will be sufficient. You don't need to have a prior kind of a learning or study in the indirect taxes. The flow of the Board of Studies material itself is so very good that you don't need any foreground, any background experience in this. Will I cover the whole syllabus? Anupuru, Shesha, Praveen Kumar? No, I will cover till the exemptions part. What is the difference between statutory update and supplementary sheets? Yeah. So statutory update is just a kind of update of whatever statutory changes has happened, and that will be embedded in your study material itself. So if you have an old study material, then how do you update it? That is the statutory update. But supplementary update is for the any updates in terms of notifications, circulars, or change in rules, which is relevant, that will be mentioned in the supplementary update sheet. I will actually, we had one session on the by the Board of Studies member once upon a time. So we used to have that format wherein some member from Board of Studies would come and give you an explanation. But more or less, for your understanding, I would say that statutory update is just an update on the law, but any update in notifications and circulars will come in the supplementary update. Okay. Will case study questions be asked? Yes, Sayed. You can see some case study questions are asked because the application of law is very important. So you will find some case studies given, and you may have to have understanding or study of various chapters. So it can't be that you'll get question from only one chapter. You'll get a combined questions. So if it's a small question or for a shorter questions, then they could ask from one chapter. But if it's a compounded question, then it could be asked from various chapters. So you can see some case studies are also given to you. GST is required for intra-supply of handicraft goods. We'll cover it in the registration chapter, Mohammed. How to get updated in taxation in real life as a CA? That's a very good question. So once you become a CA, you need to be up to date, right? So there are a lot of changes, notifications, and circulars are given. So generally, you see that you subscribe to some tax magazines, or you get updates, right? You get updates from various journals. You subscribe to them, or you have the each government's website. Like for GST, you have GST portal called as CBEC. So that is where all the updates are posted. Any notifications, any circulars are posted. That's how you keep tracking and get updated. It's always important to keep updated in the field which you're practicing, right? So that you are up to date on that. What is the difference among notification, circular, and ordinance? Very good questions. So any update, like the government has, I would say that are divided into three categories. One is legislative, administrative, and judicial. So the Indian government is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. That's what is the preamble of a constitution. Now, in the constitution itself, you have three limbs. One is the legislative, one is the administrative, and the judiciary. So what does the legislative do? Legislative passes the law. Okay, so what should be a law? Because the constitution says no law or no taxes shall be collected except by the authority of the law. So you should have an authority to collect any taxes. So that's the reason. So if you're collecting, say, GST, right, you should have an act, and the act should get the power from the constitution, right? So that's the reason the constitution gave power to the government to pass the GST Act. So once they got the power, they enacted the GST Act. So this law-making power is given to the legislative. Okay, so the legislative passes the act, the administrative implements the act. Okay, so they will implement the act out because they will get power from the legislative to do some activities. So this doing activity power is given from the legislative to the administrative authorities, which is the Central Board of Direct Taxes, the Central Board of Indirect Taxes, okay, Central Board of Excise and Customs, which was the earlier Central Board of Indirect Taxes. So they get the power, and further they devise the mechanism in terms of field formation officers, commissioners, within commissioners, then you have joint commissioners, assistant commissioners. That's how the flow happens. So all of this board, which is the implementing authority of the legislative, is called the administrative authority. And if there's any dispute, somebody has to resolve it. This resolution is done by the judiciary, that is the court system, right? Starting from the Supreme Court, High Court, up till the lowest court, the tribunal, is all guided by the judiciary. Okay, so we have three limbs: administrative, legislative, and judiciary. Now, if there's any changes or correction to the act, can we all the time go to the legislative and say that make changes? Can we go and tell that changes to the act to be made? Changes in the act is not so easy because it needs approval both the houses, then the president, and the houses are not always there to make changes to your act, right? They have to do other things also. So that's the reason the broad framework is given in the law. Then the law gives powers to the administrative in terms of rule making powers. So they make the rules and they give the power of passing notification and changing the rules to the administrative authorities. So this administrative authorities makes changes to the rules, make changes to the forms, and comes up with some rates and other things. So that is all possible through notifications. Okay, so yeah, somebody had asked what is the difference between notification, circular, and ordinance. That's how we are discussing this. So notification is one which the administrative authorities come and pass and give a notification for a rate change or a change in a rule. Okay, to notify. So this is called notification. Then there may be some confusions or some clarifications which the board, the central board of indirect taxes, has to give to the authorities. So that clarification or confirmation or clearance of some queries are where the board sees that there is various practices being followed and they have to make a uniform practice within the board, within the government officers. So that's how they clarify this through circulars. So notification is to notify rate, make amendment to the rules, and circular is on clarifications to be given. Okay, so circular clarifies, and then you have the third part called as ordinance. What is an ordinance? So some changes has to be made in the act, but there is no the legislature which is in session now. Like the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha is not in session now, but emergency is there wherein changes in the act is required. That is done through the ordinance route. Okay, so like the COVID had happened, right? No, there was no assembly in motion. So some changes had to happen. So that happened through a ordinance route. Okay, so there was an ordinance which passed and the law got changed to that extent. So that is the ordinance. So notification, circular, and ordinance. Notification is the changes, notifying some changes in the rules or the forms, or notifying some rates is the notification. Circulars are for clarifications, and ordinance is for changes in the law. Okay, clear everyone on this aspect? ठीक है. केशव, if I talk in Hindi, I know कि आप सिर्फ नॉर्थ इंडिया वाले समझ पाएंगे, साउथ वाले नहीं समझेगा. तो देयर लास्ट टाइम आई ट्राइड टॉकिंग इन हिंदी और उसमें फिर कंप्लेंट था कि हिंदी में साउथ जिनको हिंदी नहीं पता है उनको तकलीफ होगा, तो इसीलिए हम लोग मिक्स एंड मैच करेंगे. Wherever I am talking in Hindi, I'll also convert it into English so that people who are well versed can get interest in this subject. So on which page of modules are these terms, मैडम? ये terms वगैरह नहीं है, आपको मॉड्यूल में नहीं मिलेंगे. ये मेरे एक्सपीरियंस से बता रहा हूँ. जब मॉड्यूल में डिस्कस करना है तब मैं मॉड्यूल का आपको डिस्कशन का पॉइंट्स बता दूँ. इसमें will this be theoretical or numerical? This will be both, mix of theoretical and numericals. Yes, Krisha Patel. I have seen students who have studied, at least attended my classes, and they have come back and they said, I at least see that they come back and they respond saying that yes, they have cleared because of my deliberations. So I would say past is the experience, and based on the experience, I would say that yes, they have cleared the exams very successfully and they're very happy. So I would say attending these lectures are sufficient. Okay, so let's get into the background. What is taxation and why should you pay taxes, right? We taxation hai, so why should you pay taxes? When you ask any client कि मेरे को taxes pay करो, तो वो tax नहीं pay करेंगे, right? So when you tell some client that pay taxes, they're not happy with it, right? They always complain that what are we getting from the government? What is it in return and things like that. So nobody is happy at the first instance to make the taxation. That's the reason you see the picture. Tax is a burden. Is it a burden? Yes. For most of the people who pay taxes, they always script and they say, why should I pay tax? And it's like a burden. That's the reason this picture that it looks like a burden. Taxation and why should it be paid? Okay, we'll understand what is taxation. Let us understand that government is not like a traditional thing wherein people never used to pay taxes and they used to only enjoy, and they were kings and राजा का जमाना था और राजा सबको घर देता था. कुछ भी हो, अगर वो कुछ गाना वाला को देखता था या कुछ कोई अच्छा नाटक करता था तो उसको सोने के मोहरे देता था, अपनी चेन निकाल के देता था. Correct? So that's not the case now. It's not the case when kings used to just give some chains or some gold coins to anybody whom they see that they're performing well, right? Those were all only there in the stories now, right? After that, they also started collecting taxes in terms of lagan, right? Or some taxation. They also used to collect something from the public because they have to survive. They can't just depend on that always spending money. They also need something in return for the king system, for the kingdom to work, right? That's how the taxation evolved. And now we have a welfare state. What is welfare state? That we need that government should not do only kind of protection for the country, right? The earlier government's thing was they should only protect the citizens and they should only make rules and laws. But that's not the case, at least in the 21st century, that they are not only a policing job is what they should do. They should do kind of welfare. They should do welfare for the society, uplift the living of the people. How do they do it? By developing good infrastructure, developing good systems, developing the good investments into the country. So for that, a lot of things has to be spent, right? So once they do that, then the standard of living of the people increases. So that's why the role of the government is more of a welfare state now. They'll have to do public expenditure for the welfare state. They'll have to do public expenditure. If they do public expenditure, they need to get money and they have to have a fiscal policy to stimulate the economic growth, right? It can't be stagnant that this I've spent this year and I will spend this much itself. Every year, the spending increases, inflation rises, they have to get more money, right? For this reason, the government is in requirement of some source of revenue. They can't keep borrowing, right? The companies do borrow from from foreign banks and things like that, but that can't be that they rely only on borrowing. Less of borrowing is very good. So they will have to generate revenue, right? So taxation is one of the biggest source of generating revenue. As the definition of taxation says, tax is a burden. What burden? It's a pecuniary burden. Pecuniary means what? It involves money. It's not that we are following barter system, right? The king does something for you and you can give something what you have. So I will say that I am selling some kinds of pots. You take pots from me and I will not pay taxes. No, that's not the case. Whatever business you're doing, you can't exchange that with the government and say, this is my taxes. तो ऐसे नहीं होता है कि मैं आज कुछ बेच रहा हूँ और वो मैं गवर्नमेंट को दे दूंगा और बोलूंगा कि यही मेरा टैक्स है. ऐसे नहीं होता है. That's not possible that I exchange whatever I sell to the government and say, this is my tax. Taxes is always to be paid in pecuniary. It has to be paid in money terms itself. Okay. The definition of tax also says so that it's a pecuniary burden laid upon individuals and landowners to support the government, and it's a payment exacted by legislative authority. So it's not a voluntary payment. Okay. It is a legislative authority. That reminds me of a story here. So people who are saying that they're sleepy, I'll give you a story to sleep further. No, it is not to make you sleep further. It is there to make you more active. Okay. So एक राजा था. एक राजा बोलता है कि मुझे है ना एक बड़ा हाथी ले लिया. हाथी लेके आ गया हूं मैं. अब हाथी को दूध चाहिए. ओके. जब हाथी को दूध चाहिए तब उसके पास इतना सारा दूध नहीं रहता है, तो सभी घर वालों से बोलता है जो उसके गांव वाले रहते हैं कि हर कोई आके एक बड़ा सा क्या बोलते हैं उसको, बड़ा सा एक यूटेंसिल रहता है जिसमें वो बोलता है कि इसमें आपको हर कोई आके सुबह इसमें दूध डाल देगा, और मैं एक ही आदमी से नहीं ले सकता हूँ, इसलिए सब लोग मिलके एक एक जग में लाके दूध डाल दीजिए, ताकि सब लोग इसे इकट्ठा करके जो रहेगा दूध बढ़ जाएगा और किसी को तकलीफ भी नहीं पड़ेगी। जब मेरे घर पे 5 लीटर दूध या 1 लीटर दूध आता है, उसमें से मैं एक जग लेके जाऊंगा। तो आई टेल दिस इन इंग्लिश ऑल्सो दिव्या, डोंट वरी। तो जब मैं एक ग्लास दूध लेके आऊंगा और उसमें डाल दूंगा, तो मुझे कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा, सब मेरे घर वालों से मैं थोड़ा थोड़ा निकाल रहा हूँ और सब घर वाले ऐसे ही करेंगे। ठीक है, तो ये डिसाइड हो जाता है कि वहां पे एक बड़ा बिग यूटेंसिल रख देते हैं और सबको बोलते हैं ग्लास में लाके डालना है। ठीक है, तो रात में सब लोग सो जाते हैं ये बात सुन के, और कल जब सुबह जाके दूध डालना है, तब ये सोचते हैं, सबके दिल में आता है कि हाँ ये तो बात अच्छी है, राजा बहुत अच्छा है कि वो सबसे थोड़ा थोड़ा मांग रहा है ताकि किसी को तकलीफ ना हो, तो फिर मैं भी कल डाल दूंगा। तो सब ऐसे सोचते हैं, लेकिन एक बंदा रहता है जिसका नाम होता है पोपटलाल। पोपट सोचता है कि मैं अगर सब लोग दूध डाल ही रहे हैं और मैं अगर एक गिलास पानी डाल दूं, तो क्या फर्क पड़ने वाला है। सब लोग दूध डाल देंगे और मैं पानी डाल दूंगा, सबका वो सफेद ही है, मैं पानी डालूंगा तो पानी थोड़ी दिखेगा दूध में, तो मैं पानी डाल देता हूँ। तो ऐसे सोच के सो जाता है और सुबह जाके पानी डाल देता है। हर कोई क्या डालता है, हर कोई दूध डालता है, और वो बंद रहता है तो इसलिए कुछ दिखाई नहीं देता है, क्योंकि सुबह सुबह रहता है, किसी को दिखाई नहीं देता, वो डाल के आ जाता है। फिर जब राजा जाता है और हाथी को लेके जाता है, तब देखता है वहां पे तो दूध का नामो निशान नहीं है, सिर्फ पानी है। क्यों? क्योंकि हर कोई पोपट की तरह ही सोचता है कि मैं पानी डाल दूंगा तो क्या फर्क पड़ने वाला है, हर कोई दूध डाल रहा है, मैं सिर्फ एक गिलास पानी डाल दूंगा। हर कोई ऐसे सोचेगा, तो फिर उस बेचारे हाथी को क्या दूध मिलेगा। हर कोई पानी डालेगा तो उसे सिर्फ पानी ही मिलेगा। करेक्ट। तो टैक्सेशन भी ऐसा ही है। हर कोई सोचेगा कि मैं कंट्रीब्यूट नहीं करूंगा, देश के बड़े अंबानी और वो लोग कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहे हैं, वो करेंगे, हम लोग कंट्रीब्यूट नहीं करेंगे, ऐसे नहीं होगा ना। हर किसी को अपना कंट्रीब्यूशन करना ही पड़ेगा। राइट, तो हर कोई वॉलेंट्री पेमेंट नहीं करेगा, इसलिए उसको खींचना पड़ेगा, उससे छीनना पड़ेगा, विच इज कॉल्ड एज पेमेंट एग्जैक्टेड बाय लेजिस्लेटिव अथॉरिटी। ओके, तो उसको लेजिस्लेटिव अथॉरिटी से खींचना पड़ेगा। कैरेट एंड स्टिक की थियरी जो बोलते हैं कि कैरेट से भी हम किसी को बुला सकते हो, या स्टिक से मारना पड़ेगा, टैक्सेशन स्टिक के थ्रू ही काम आएगा। ओके, सो व्हाट आई वाज ट्राइंग टू से इज दैट I was on this aspect of payment which is exacted by legislative authority, right? So the tax payment is not voluntary, it is exacted by legislative authority. There should be a power which should be given, which gets extracted, right? So I was telling a story that there was an elephant. A king brings in a big elephant and he wants to feed that elephant some milk, right? So the capacity of the elephant is also big. It wants a higher quantity of milk. So he decides that how do I make this possible? Because I don't have so much milk in my reserves. So what do? I've told all my kingdom that tomorrow I'll keep a big utensil at the center of the town and everybody have to come and contribute by just one glass of milk every day. Okay, that's all. And there'll be a closed utensil kept over there. Everybody please drop in your glass of milk and go off so that I can bring in the elephant and make it drink. So everyone says that, okay, it's a very good thing that the king has done. I will contribute my contribution of milk in this. There was one guy called as Poppet, and he was thinking that I will contribute just a glass of water. What will happen when everybody contributes milk and I contribute water? Nobody's going to see it, right? And it's going to mix with the milk, and there's not going to be any difference which is going to be there. So he sleeps off, and the next day that everyone contributes in it, and he also comes and he contributes his precious water. Then he goes and sleeps off, goes to his place, and the king comes and sees that, okay, my kingdom has contributed sufficient milk, let me open it. And when he opens up, he's surprised to see that there is only white color liquid, which is water. And everybody has thought like this person, and they have contributed water, thinking that If I contribute water, how is it going to make difference? Because everyone else is contributing in terms of milk, right? So that's how the taxation will work if it is done in a voluntary basis, that you say that please make this taxation voluntary. That is not going to work, right? It has to be through an authority. So that's how the authoritative power comes in. Okay, so the authoritative power comes in. That's why it's said that taxation is a pecuniary burden laid upon individuals and landowners to support the government, and which is a payment exacted by legislative authority and not voluntarily. Okay, it's exacted by legislative authority. The taxation authorities have powers, and through the powers, they pull the taxes from the government, right? You call it as pull or anything you call it, but it is a payment which is exacted by legislative authority. They should be authority and they should perform in accordance with their authority. They cannot go beyond the authority also. That is also not permitted because the constitution gives the protection. Okay, it is not a voluntary payment or donation, but it is an enforced contribution which is exacted pursuant to legislative authority. Clear? Now you will remember this, right? Because you remembered the example, that's how you will remember this, that it is a payment exacted by legislative authority. Okay, that's how try to connect your learnings with something so that you will remember them, right? What is the basic tax system in India which is prevalent now? The tax system in India is this. 1 minute. Okay, the prevalent tax system is like this. You have direct taxes, you have indirect taxes, and you have tax on tax. Okay, before getting into this, let us see what are all the taxes which have been subsumed, right? So that then we'll understand this in a much better manner. The taxation which was there earlier is the excise duty. The excise duty is no more there. Service tax, additional duty of excise, surcharge and cess, all of these taxes have been subsumed and been combined into one law called as a Central Goods and Service Tax Act. ठीक है, जो पहले एक्साइज ड्यूटी लगता था, सर्विस टैक्स लगता था, ये सब कौन कलेक्ट करता था? सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट कलेक्ट करता था. जो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट कलेक्ट करते थे उनका पावर्स अभी हटके पूरे एक ही टैक्सेस में आ गया, which is called as CGST. Okay, then you had various state laws, which is value added tax, purchase tax, or you could also call entry tax, and you had something called as luxury tax, which you used to pay on watching any movies or staying in a hotel or staying in an accommodation. Then you used to have surcharge and cess on top of this. All those taxes have been subsumed and they have called as, they're not called as, I mean, it's all been subsumed and it means they've been abolished and a new law has come to give the same compensation to the state, which is a Central Goods and Service Tax Act. Okay, so that is all been subsumed, and you have something called as central sales tax. When you had to move goods from one state to another, then you had central sales tax, and then you had countervailing duty and special additional duty. Okay, so what is this countervailing duty and special additional duty? When you import something into the country, you had to pay basic customs duty and to give the same competition to the imported goods, right? Because if I manufacture something in India, I will pay excise duty on the manufacture, right? So similar to that, they used to give that same kind of a treatment on imported goods, and they used to charge, apart from basic custom duty, was countervailing duty and another duty in terms of VAT called as a special additional duty. So on import, countervailing duty and SCT was charged, and central sales tax was charged on an interstate transfer. So all of this has been merged into a integrated goods and service tax. Okay, so all of these taxes have gone now, and we have CGST, SGST, and IGST. Okay, so understand now the taxation system in India. You have direct tax, indirect tax, and tax on tax. In direct tax, you have income tax, you have corporate tax, and agriculture tax. Agriculture tax is also indirectly being levied, right? because you'd get an exemption, but your tax slab is increased to that extent. That's the reason you have indirectly a tax on agriculture. So you have an agriculture tax. Then in indirect tax, now you have only two taxes. One is GST and the customs duty. GST, we know that on any kind of sale or service transaction, supply of goods and services, you pay a tax called as a GST tax. On any kind of import, you still pay a basic customs duty. Is customs still there, sir, after GST came in? Yes. Even after GST is coming, you have a tax called as a customs duty. Basic customs duty is still there on the importation purposes. On import, you have basic customs duty plus a GST, which is called as a integrated goods and service tax is levied. On import, you pay two duties, basic customs duty and integrated goods and service tax. So isn't it double duty? No, it's not a double duty. It's a duty which is being split. One is basic customs duty and one is GST. And this GST, what you pay on inputs, is always claimable. Okay, this claimable thing is called as an input tax credit. So on your import, basic customs duty is a duty which cannot claim, but the GST charge on imports, right, that can be claimable. So that you get the same kind of competition, games, level playing field for a person who buys within India and for a person who buys outside India. Right. So on my imports, I pay basic customs duty and IGST. On a transfer within the country, I pay GST. Okay. What kind of GST? I'll come to that. Then tax on tax is prevalent, like the surcharge and cess is still prevalent in India. So you have tax on tax also on some kind of taxes. Okay. Now, what is direct tax? Direct tax is the tax on which the incidence of tax is borne directly. I earn my income, I earn my salary, and I pay taxes. That's a direct tax. I earn the salary and I pay, so I bear the incidence, right? And contravene, the opposite of that is indirect taxes, wherein the incidence of tax is shifted to another person. Who is this another person? This is a person who's consuming. Who is selling? The shopkeeper is selling you a Sprite. You buy a Sprite, he's selling you, he's earning the income. But who's paying the tax? I am paying the tax because I am drinking it. How am I paying? I am paying through the price what I'm giving to him. He has brought it from the distributor at 6 rupees. He will sell it to me at 10 rupees, right? In that 10 tax is included. So incidence of tax is, he is earning the profit of it, but tax is on me. So that's how indirect tax works, right? The GST, what is charged on any product, what is sold to me, I will bear it, but profit is his. So that's how the indirect tax works. The incidence of tax is shifted to another person. Okay. Then you have another difference. Direct tax is progressive. How is it progressive? As and when my income increases, I pay more taxes. Okay. It's not like fixed amount of tax for everyone. That's not the case. It is a percentage. You know that the income tax is a slab basis, right? And for a company also it's slab basis. So as and when the profit increases, the taxation value also increases. So direct tax is progressive in nature. Indirect tax is regressive because I go and buy, or the rich person also goes and buys a soap. The rate of tax is same, right? On the same soap, on the same product, tax is same. If you buy a higher product or a luxury product, then the rate is different. But on the product, it is always same. So that's why it's regressive, because it is not dependent on the income or the margin of a person. It is same across, right? So that's why it is regressive in nature. The example of direct tax is income tax, and example of indirect tax is GST and customs. Right? This slide we saw that wherein what are the taxes which is subsumed. Now, when you make an intrastate supply, what is intrastate? Within the state. If you make any supply within the state, okay, that is called as intrastate. On an intrastate transaction, you pay CGST and SGST, right? When a government says the rate is 18% on a product, it means that 9% is CGST and 9% is SGST. Okay, 9% is CGST and 9% is SGST. That is what you pay in a intrastate transaction. If the same product is sold outside the state, then you pay IGST, which is one rate of 18% of IGST. Okay, the government has made it so very well that when I sell it within the state and when I sell outside the state, the rate is same. That's the reason GST is so very nice. Otherwise, what used to happen, each state used to have different VAT rate. In Karnataka on mobiles, they were 5%. In another state, it was 12%. So people used to come to Bangalore and buy it, right? So that's the disparity between the tax rate taxes. But now under GST, the same product, you sell it over here, you sell it in Jammu, anywhere you sell, it is liable for the same rate. You sell it within the state or you sell outside the state, it is still the same. Okay, so there is some question which is being posted. Why tax rate is charged according to slabs and not on every level of income? It is indirectly on the level of income itself, right? Because the slabs is on the income. So up to certain income, it is exempted, which means a low income category person will be not taxed, and a higher income person will be taxed then, right? When purchase tax is combined in SGST, then when we purchase some products in malls or somewhere, why it is shown in bill both SGST and CGST? Dear Syed, what I meant by purchase tax is not the taxes what we pay. So we used to pay VAT also before. Instead of the VAT bill, we are paying CGST and SGST. The mention of purchase tax over there, what was not on the tax what you pay. Like apart from the taxes what we pay in the VAT, when they used to purchase, they used to pay additional taxes. That was called purchase tax or entry tax. Now that entry tax and purchase tax is all subsumed in the CGST and the SGST. So that is what is subsumed, right? You don't pay separate purchase tax, you pay CGST and SGST, GST on your purchases, right? So taxes on purchases and the entry tax or the purchase tax is different. That tax is being subsumed in the GST now. Okay, so when you purchase something, you have to pay taxes. You can't escape the taxes. But earlier multiple taxes were there. Now there is one tax. Can you please explain CGST and SGST inter and intra? Okay. So interstate means when there is any supply. I will use the word supply because in GST most you have to use the word supply because supply is a very broad based. I wouldn't say sale, I wouldn't say service because sale, service, transfer, rental, lease, all of this is included in the word supply. Okay, so Kiranji, your question on CGST and SGST, जब आप interstate transfer करते हो, ठीक है? Interstate मतलब एक स्टेट से दूसरे स्टेट में जब आप ट्रांसफर करते हो तब आपको इंटरस्टेट के लिए इंटीग्रेटेड गुड्स एंड सर्विस टैक्स लगाना चार्ज करना पड़ता है, विच इज IGST. और इंट्रास्टेट मतलब विद इन द स्टेट, ठीक है? सपोज मैं हूँ बैंगलोर में, विच इज इन द स्टेट ऑफ कर्नाटका. बैंगलोर से मैं शिमोगा ट्रांसफर करता हूँ, गुड्स सेल करता हूँ, तो बोथ आर विद इन द स्टेट, ठीक है? तो विद इन द स्टेट के लिए मैं क्या चार्ज करूंगा? CGST और SGST. ठीक है, तो इंट्रास्टेट हो गया. जब इंट्रास्टेट ट्रांजैक्शन करते हैं तब क्या चार्ज करेंगे? CGST एंड SGST. और इंटरस्टेट के लिए क्या चार्ज करेंगे? IGST. ठीक है, आप प्लीज रेस्पॉन्स करके बताइए इफ यू हैव अंडरस्टूड दिस. I transferred another state. Okay, so Kiran, what I meant to say is if I make a transfer, interstate transfer, then I charge integrated goods and service tax. And if I make any intrastate within the state, right? I was giving an example of sale of goods from Bangalore to Shimoga. Both of these cities are within the state of Karnataka. So it is an intrastate transfer, intrastate sale. So I will charge CGST and SGST. Amit Agarwal, what is your question? I transferred another state, then GST will charge. Yes, if I have transferred to another state, then you will charge IGST. Okay. Intrastate is equal to CGST plus SGST. Interstate is equal to IGST only. Correct, Pritesh. IGST is levied and collected by which government? Very good question. So CGST goes to the central government, SGST goes to the state government. So when I make any supply within the state, 50-50 ratio, 50% goes to the center, 50% goes to the state. So if the product rate is 18%, 9% will go to the center through CGST, 9% will go to the state through SGST. If the rate is 12%, 6. If the rate is 5, then 2.5, 2.5. Okay. On some product, you have 3% also, which is then it is 1.5, 1.5. But the same product, if it is sold outside the state, you will charge IGST that goes to the central government, and that is one rate. So only central government is enjoying, sir? No. We'll see the mechanism through a flow chart, and I prepared Excel how the IGST gets collected as a kind of a storage, and then it gets distributed to the states as well. Okay, so we'll see that. So, but you understand that when I'm making an interstate transaction, only IGST that goes to the central government. GST is not in exports, sir? No, GST is not there on exports because the intention of any government is they should export goods and export services. They should not export taxes. So on exports, there is no taxes. Good. So we cleared this. Now we'll go to the features of indirect taxes, more of a theoretical thing. I'll quickly brush through. What are the features of indirect taxes? It is tax on commodities and services. So GST is a tax on goods and services. It is a tax on goods and services. Okay, so GST is a tax on both supply of goods and services. Both you have to pay GST. Unlike before, wherein VAT was on goods and service tax was only on services. Now it is combined. GST is on any kind of a supply of goods and services. It is shifting of burden, right? How is it shifting of burden? Because as we see the example of soap, right? The person who sells the soap shifts the burden of the tax to the customer, right? And when he bought it, he had also taken the burden from the wholesaler. The wholesaler had given him, he did not bear the burden. He passed on the burden to this retailer, and the retailer paid the taxes. That's how the burden passes. When passes from one person, when the goods move from one hand to another hand, the taxes also gets transferred to the recipient. Okay. Then there's no perception of direct pinch. आज के दिन मैं income करता हूँ, I earn a lot of income and I pay taxes on that. There's a direct pinch to me that I have to pay from my income. But indirect taxes, from the day we get up, from the time we wake up till the time we sleep, indirectly we're paying taxes. सुबह brush करते हो, brush के ऊपर भी tax pay कर दिया आपने. Toothpaste use किया, when you bought the toothpaste, you have paid the taxes. Fine. Then what do? You have your bath, on the soap, you have paid the taxes. Have your breakfast, go to the hotel, restaurant also charges you tax. So on small things on your daily use, you pay the amount to the buyer, but you don't feel the pinch, right? You don't feel the pinch that there is something which you've paid. So you don't feel the pinch directly. Okay. So on every commodity, there is a tax which is embedded, but there is no perception of direct pinch because you just buy the product as casually and the taxes is actually paid along with it. Then it is inflationary. How is it inflationary? As the prices of the product rises, the taxes also rises, right? So it is having a direct connection with the price of the products. As the price increases of the products, the taxation also increases because it is linked to the price, not like a fixed price, right? It's not like 10 rupees you have to pay irrespective of whatever value of commodities I sell. No, right? It's a percentage of the value. So that's why this is called as inflationary. So wider tax base, because a person who's not paying income tax, a person who's not having anything also, if he buys a mobile, okay, a student is not earning anything, still he pays taxes on the purchase of mobile. So the taxation is so very huge. It has a wide base that everybody pays taxes irrespective of their income class or income category. It promotes social welfare. How does it promote social welfare? Does it say that, okay, I'll whatever taxation I earn, I'll give you. So that's the social welfare? No, that is not the social welfare. That's the government's perspective of where to invest. That's the government's budget, which they will decide. But when I say as a feature of indirect tax that it promotes social welfare, what I mean is it levies higher rate of tax on some sin goods. What is I levy higher tax on that so that I discourage people to buy it, right? The taxation is levied more on such goods so that it discourages somebody to buy it. That's how it promotes social welfare. Then it is regressive in nature. We had discussed that it is not what we've seen. It is not opposite of regressive, right? We had seen this in the previous slide here. It is not progressive in nature. It is regressive in nature, right? As in when I become rich, but still the rate of tax I pay on that commodity will be the same, right? So that's why it is regressive in nature. It is so important source of revenue. Why is it an important source of revenue? It is an important source because you see the tax collection. The direct tax was earlier 80%, indirect tax was 20%. The slowly it's increasing and it is getting equal. Indirect tax also is 50% of the total revenue collections and even direct tax. So it is a very, very important source of revenue to the government. Okay, so the journey of GST is very important because you may have multiple choice questions wherein you will see that some important dates will be relevant. So that's the reason this is important to understand. When did the GST Act, when does the GST Foundation started? It actually got passed in 2017 from the 1st July 2017, but the journey started way back in 2000, wherein the March pay government started discussion on the GST. Then in 2006, announcement of GST for the first time made in the budget. Then in 2008, 2009, first discussion paper was released. In 2011, the constitutional amendment bill was introduced. So bill and then the act, we said, right? So in 2011 itself, bill was introduced. Then in 2014, this has some time, right? If the bill is not passed within some time, then it gets lapsed. So the bill was passed, but it didn't get assent of the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, so it was lapsed. Then GSTN, okay, GSTN means Goods and Service Tax Network. A private company was set up because they know that somebody has to run this GST portal. There'll be some IT backing. That's the reason they formed a Goods and Service Tax Network as a private limited company to run the portal. Then, of course, it has been funded or it's been founded by the government and other authorities or banks and things, but it's basically a private company. Then again in 2014, the 102nd Amendment Bill was introduced. Then this 2014, it got passed as the Goods and Service Tax 101st Amendment Act. So these are the important things which you have to remember. One is the GST Amendment Bill. So which was this bill? This bill was 122nd bill, which got passed as the 101st Amendment Act. Okay, the act is 101 and the bill is 122nd. Okay. Then in September 2016, the first GST Council meeting was taken place. In March 2017, lot of recommendations on the formation of the act, that is CGST, SGST, UTGST, compensation cess were all decided in March 2017. April 2017, those respective acts were passed. GST Council then started recommending the rates for the products in May 2017. In June 2017, all the states except Jammu and Kashmir said that we will be outside the GST. So in June 2017, all the states were ready, and 1st July 2017, GST was launched. But subsequently, on 8th July, the Jammu and Kashmir also took up the GST, and Jammu and Kashmir also passed the GST law. And that's how the GST has been continuing from July to 1st July 2017 till date. Okay. What is more about GST? GST, what we have to understand. Can you please explain again why it is inflationary? Yes, it is inflationary because inflation means what? The increase, right? As in when the prices increases, the taxes has to increase, right? So it is not opposite of inflationary. It is always inflationary, that the prices of the products, the production cost increases and my selling cost increases, then that's when my GST also increases. So it is inflationary in nature. So it inflates the prices. That's the reason it is inflationary in nature. Clear, Pratiksha? 122nd is the bill number of the amendment and 101st is the constitution amendment number. Yes, correct. So how did the bill was 122 and then how did the act become 101? Like we had seen, the bills, what is passed, never get converted into act. All of them is not necessary. So the amendment will have a different series, and few amendment bills are not passed into act. That's the reason you see 122nd bill is not 122nd act. So you, out of that 122, some bills wouldn't have passed. That's the reason it will become 101st Amendment Act, because the series of the acts what is passed will be different. Okay, so 122nd bill and 101st act. Sir, promote social welfare. Can you explain this more once? There was a glitch at that moment. Okay, so social welfare, how I would say is it will discourage to consume sin goods. Okay, what are sin goods? Tobacco, liquor, pan masala, all of this are sin goods. Okay, so it promotes by levying more taxes on it, like on the tobacco and things, the rate of tax is higher, right? It levies more taxes on such goods and discourages them to buy, because if the price is increasing, the notion is that consumption will reduce. So that's how it discourages through spending on these price and promotes the social welfare. Can you explain more about ordinance promulgated to extend GST to Jammu and Kashmir? Yeah, the Jammu and Kashmir did not get past the assent for getting the GST thing, but later on they realized that no, GST has to be passed Jammu and Kashmir. That time the Jammu and Kashmir amalgamation was not passed, so it was a separate state itself. So, but then they passed through a ordinance that yes, we will also form part, and then an ordinance was passed saying that in the GST, first it was mentioned that this law extends the whole of India except to the state of Jammu and Kashmir. But then the ordinance was passed on an urgent basis, and they said that CGST will be implemented in Jammu and Kashmir also. Okay, that's how the ordinance was passed. What is the best way of learning tax? Because the syllabus of tax is too vast. Yeah, Anupam, it is vast, but I would say your syllabus, your study material is very good. Your study material should be studied on a well-through mode. When we studied, it was rarely black and white, and there were no examples and things like that, but still we studied the material. But now I would say the study material is very advanced. You have chapters, you have a very kind of pictorial representation. So it's the best material, I would say, for you to crack your exams. Okay. GST is also called as VAT in some countries, because what is GST ultimately? It's a value added tax. It's a tax on the value addition, right? So it is also called as VAT in some countries. GST is introduced in how many countries? It is introduced in close to 160 countries, right? Who was the first country? France was the pioneer in heading the GST. Most countries follow unified GST, right? They have one GST across the country. But in India, we had dual GST model. What do you mean by dual GST? That on a transaction, state also will collect some taxes and central also will collect, right? So in Brazil and Canada, and now in India, you have dual GST model, wherein on same transaction, center and state both are collecting the taxes. Okay. Now we'll understand the concept of GST in India, wherein it's a value added tax. What do you mean by value added tax? It means it's a tax on the value addition, right? On every value addition you pay. It means that what I bought something at 100 rupees and I'm selling it at 150 rupees. So how much is the value I'm adding at 50 rupees? So I should be paying taxes on 50 rupees, correct? So am I paying taxes only on 50? Not exactly. I am paying taxes on full 150, but either you can pay on 50 or you can pay on 150 minus 100, correct? That is also permitted. So that is how the taxation works in India, that you pay taxes on the differential. You pay tax on your sale transaction, then you get a credit, which is called the input tax credit, right? On the value what you have purchased, and you get offset for that. So you ultimately pay tax on the 50 rupees. This is called as a value added tax, which means the tax is on the value addition, right? To understand this, I will run through a working which I have prepared for you for your easy understanding. Is my Excel sheet visible? Yeah, please let me know if my Excel sheet is visible. Okay. So we have a pre-GST and post-GST model. So you will understand both things, how the GST credit works and also how there was a difference between pre-GST and post-GST. So let us understand what used to happen pre-GST. A manufacturer used to sell some goods, say at 10,000 rupees. He's a manufacturer, so he has to charge excise duty. He will charge excise duty. Then that will become 11,000. On the 11,000 rupees, he had to pay VAT on it. Huh? How is it possible that you collect tax on tax? Yes, it was possible. So they used to collect tax on tax on the 11,000. Ideally, it should be on the sale value, right? 10,000. But VAT said no. Whatever is the excise duty, add that and then pay VAT to me. So you used to pay tax on tax. That is called as a cascading effect. So tax on tax, what you used to pay here was getting a cascading effect of taxes. That was why there was a lacuna in the VAT system. That tax on tax was a scenario there. And then the sale price was 12,595. Okay, so this 12,595, I've paid what? How much? 1,000 plus 1,595. Give me the credit, no? Was the call of the distributor. But the distributors never used to get the credit. They used to get only of the VAT, which means the tax is also collected, excise duty, tax on tax is also collected, and the distributor never used to get the credit. Okay, that was the complete picture of the cascading of taxation, right? Taxes used to be collected. It was another tax which was levied on that, and the other person never used to get the credit because excise duty was creditable or available as credit to another person who is registered under excise. But if he's not registered under excise, like a distributor, he's not doing any manufacturing, he will not be registered under excise. So he never used to get the benefit, right? So whenever he used to sell, say this product at 15,000 rupees, he will sell at 15,000, then add VAT. So then when he used to pay taxes to the government, this 2,175 minus the taxes what he's paid on his purchase, he could reduce and he could pay the only tax on the value addition. So this is called as value addition, right? On the 15,000, he used to pay full taxes. Then he used to get reduction of the taxes what he used to pay, and he used to pay the only differential taxes. So 2,175 minus 1,595, 580 is what he used to pay to the government. Why? Because on his purchases, he's already paid the taxes. He has to pay tax on his only on his value addition. That's how he used to pay only on value addition. Then if he used to sell that at 18,000 rupees, if the distributor sells it to the retailer will sell it at 18,000 rupees. On that, he will charge VAT. And the 2,175, what was charged here, could have claimed as a credit, right? So this was what was charged. So the consumer who used to buy it, 18,000 sale price, on that he used to pay taxes of 2,610 and his cost will be 20,610. Can he pass it on again? No, because he's a consumer. The consumer will always bear the burden. The end customer bears the burden. That's how the cost was 20,610. Now what happened? What happened in GST? There was a complete shift. Great. So now in GST, it was complete shift. Now see this picture. A manufacturer is selling it at 10,000 rupees. Excise duty, does he charge? No, because excise and GST, excise and VAT has all been submerged, and there is only one tax called as GST. So no excise duty. The base value is 10,000 rupees. GST of say on this product, it is 5%. Okay, so they used to charge 5% on it. Now, excise duty, had they been charged, then it was not creditable, but GST is a fungible tax. Okay, it means the taxes levied on anybody. It could be a service receiver or a product buyer. If somebody buys goods or buys services, they can claim it. So if I sell it to my distributor, this 500 will be available as a credit to him, right? So when he used to sell, if he sells the product at 14,000 with his margin, GST is leviable at 5% on it. He used to get the credit benefit of 500. He will pay net how much? 700 minus 500, just 200 he'll pay. So he'll pay taxes only on his value addition. So on 14,000 fully he'll pay, and he'll get the benefit of 500, which means 200 rupees is what he will pay to the government, right? This is called as input tax credit. So this 500 he will reduce from 700, and this is called as a input tax credit. So taxes what you pay on outward on your sale, right? Because when you're selling the goods outward, is the outward supply is your output tax. And when you pay taxes on your input on your purchases, that's called as input tax. Okay. Then retailer, if this person is selling to the retailer, the sale price is 17,000 rupees, GST of 850 rupees, say at 5%, he will get the credit on the taxes what is charged by his predecessor, by his distributor. He will get benefit of 700 rupees reduction there. Okay. Then the cost to the consumer will be 17,000 plus 850, which is 17,850. So this is how the differentiation between old law and new law and how the credit flows is understood this way. Clear with this? Question: what is unified GST, sir? Unified GST is, it is unifying unit one GST, which is unifying the center and the state's provision. Like in the US, what I understand is each state charges one tax and the center also charges a different tax. So you have to understand the provisions of the each union or each county to understand things. So that is how they used to. There is a different taxes, but in India, you pay one tax, which is called as a unified tax. Okay. Before we get into the next aspects, we'll take a short break of 5 to 7 minutes. We'll assemble back at 7:30, and we'll continue our discussion further. So we'll take a short break now. Thank you. Okay, so there are some questions. If the distribution doesn't resell the goods, then input credit can't be claimed. Yes, it can't be claimed. So it is always when the credit is being passed on, it is credit is given with subject or kind of assurance that you will sell it. Okay, so you claim the credit when you buy it, and if you don't sell, right, then you have to reverse the credit. So when you read input tax credit, you'll understand further that you can claim the credit of everything what you buy, but you don't get it or you're not able to offset if you don't sell it. Okay. If the distribution, yeah, that's your question. Hope it's clear now. So if he's using it for personal consumption, even then he has to reverse the credit. Yes. So if he's not using it for the purpose of selling it, and if he's using it for the purpose of personal consumption, then he has to reverse the credit. When supply of goods from one state to another, then which state has the power to collect tax? Yeah, that's a good question. So when A state sells to B state, then the A state has to collect because the taxation is at the source, not at the destination, because destination could get lost or something would have happened if it is been kind of damaged between, then who will pay the tax? So that's the reason when the source itself, when I sell goods from Maharashtra to Andhra Pradesh, the Maharashtra state itself will collect the tax, and what it will collect IGST, and it will collect the IGST from him, and that person will pay the IGST that goes to the central government. Okay, great. So we are done with this slide. Now we'll get back to our original slide. Okay, so what is it? Tax is a value-added tax. It is continuous chain of tax credits. A sells to B, wholesaler, the manufacturer sells to the distributor, distributor sells to the retailer, unless and until somebody is buying it, the chain continues. And if somebody consumes, that the chain stops. So it's a continuous chain of tax credits. The burden is borne by final consumer. We have seen that even under pre-GST and now also in the post-GST, the final burden is by the consumer itself. And there is no cascading taxes. ठीक है, जब हमने एक्साइज ड्यूटी देखा कि एक्साइज ड्यूटी क्रेडिट भी नहीं मिल रहा, एक्साइज ड्यूटी के ऊपर टैक्स भी लगा रहे हो, तो वो कैस्केडिंग चल रहा था वहां पे. अभी जीएसटी में कैस्केडिंग नहीं है. सो देयर इज नो कैस्केडिंग ऑफ टैक्सेस एंड जीएसटी, नो एक्साइज, no tax on tax. The tax what is charged by the first person, by the manufacturer, also is available as a credit. So there is no cascading of taxes. Right? What is the deficiency in the VAT system which brought in or which forced the thing to come in? Right? Yeah. How can it be verified whether the intermediary has resold the goods or not, sir? We don't know. So whenever I sell the goods to anybody, I have to charge and collect taxes. Right? Now it is up to him whether to claim the credit or no. Right? When I am selling something, I have to charge GST. Okay? So I will collect the GST and pay to the government. It is up to the receiver. No, when he sells anything, whether he will collect it is up to him. So if he is selling something, he will collect the taxes, and whatever taxes I've charged to him, he will claim it as a credit. Okay. What is the difference between input tax and output credit? So it is not input tax, it is an input credit and the output tax. When I sell something, when I provide some services, I'm a chartered accountant, I'm a company secretary, I'm a lawyer, I provide some services, right? All these professionals, all the services like IT services, they all provide some services. They collect taxes, right? They collect taxes, this is called as an output tax. Okay. Now, when they pay output tax, they have made some purchases, they have made some expenses. On whatever expenses they have made, whatever purchases they have made, they pay taxes on that. Okay. जब भी आप दुकान जाते हो, so whenever you go to a shop, you collect some, you get something, right? You buy something. Why do you buy? For consumption. Similarly, a company also buys something, right? It can't be that they don't spend anything and they just earn income. Not possible, right? So they spend something. So whatever they spend, right, that is what is collected. So whatever they spend, they collect, the buyer, the seller collects tax on that, and I pay taxes. So whatever taxes I pay is my input credit. Any any product, any service which I'm used in my outward supply, directly, indirectly, anything which I used for my business is my input tax credit. So I get the credit, which is called as a input credit. Okay, so that is my input credit, and on this, which I can offset, okay, against my output, right? So this is input and this is output. Sir, is there any limit imposed by government on input tax credit? No limit, but there are some restrictions which they have cast in, right? Some items which you purchase, like a motor car, which you purchase. A company purchase motor car, which is used by the director exclusively for the business, but still you can't claim the credit. So there are some restrictions on the input tax credit. A very important topic called as a blocked credit. So this credit will not be available to you even if you're using it for your business. So there is some portion called as a blocked credit, which is blocked. Otherwise, there is no limit which is imposed saying that you can claim only 1 crore, you can claim only 10 lakhs, you can claim only 50% of your output, nothing like that. You can claim the total credit, no limit as such is imposed. If the resale of the goods by the intermediary can't be verified, then what is the chance of escape of GST? What are you talking about intermediary? There is no intermediary as such, because when you use the term intermediary, you have to be careful. There is a special treatment of an intermediary. An intermediary is one who is in between a buyer and a seller, right? And he takes only commission. That's an intermediary. But we are not talking about that intermediary. We're talking of a person who's buying it and selling it, right? And the other person also will buy it and sell it. So this chain continues. Okay. So if the resale of goods by this person can't be verified, then there is a chance of GST escape. There's no chance of GST escape. So if he sells it, then he gets the credit. If he doesn't sell it, he doesn't get the credit. That's it. So if he buys it, right, how will he claim it? He should have sold something, right? If not the same goods, he sold something else. There's no requirement, Darshan, that the same product I have to track through and show that, yes, I have sold it. Not necessary. I can buy it in bulk. I might not sell it. Say if I bought 100 products, I might have sold only 90. So will I get only proportionate credit? No, not like that. Once you buy it, it's a pool. Input tax credit is a pool. So you buy 100 goods, you get the credit. If you have sold 90 and the price of 90 itself is so very high that it can claim back the credit on the purchase of 100, that is also fine. You can still claim the credit. So there's no one-to-one correlation product-wise which is required. Okay, that's how it happens. It's a pool. You claim the credit, and when you sell it, say on 50 products also, your price is so high that you can't pull off the full credit of 100. Fine, no problem. That is also possible. Okay. In pre-GST price, excise duty is payable by everyone? No. In pre-GST, excise duty was paid only by a manufacturer, not by a trader, not by a service provider. Excise duty was paid only by a manufacturer. Do you have GST form and all? No, you don't have GSTR form and all those things. Okay. Great enthusiasm, students. I'm seeing that you're asking a lot of questions. Keep this spirit going on. Wherever you're getting stuck or where I'm going technical, please let me know so that I can make you understand in a different way. Okay, what are the deficiencies in the VAT system? क्यों लेके आए GST? VAT system ठीक से चल ही रहा था, SENVAT चल रहा था, sales tax चल रहा था. क्या problem था government को GST लाने में? What was the problem? Did they feel any difficulties? Why do they have to get this? No, there were some lacunas, there were some problems, right? Which was impacting in a big way, right? Because of this, government was not getting foreign funding, because a foreign investor who wants to invest in India wants clarity. More than if you charge them a higher rate also, it's fine, but they need clarity. So this clarity was brought into in GST to a large extent. Okay, what is this clarity they brought in? Earlier, we'll find the deficiencies or the lacunas in the previous VAT system. There was double taxation on a single taxation of goods. On a single transaction, they had to pay 2 taxes, right? What are these 2 taxes? Like in software, VAT also was levied and service tax also was levied. On some portion, 60% of the value of the software, service tax, and again 60% on the value, the VAT also was levied. So then on 120% you pay it, but you're selling at 100%. So software products, then on construction contracts, there was to be a word system of rebate or labor deduction in VAT. So in VAT, they used to say that we'll give you labor deduction of 30%. And service tax said we'll give you a deduction of 40%. So 60% you pay in VAT, 70% in service tax. So that such kind of crazy things used to happen. Because there was no kind of a handshake between VAT system and the service tax system. So service tax used to say, no, I will give you only this deduction. VAT used to say, no, I will not consider whatever they deduction they have given, that only I will charge. No, I will have my own system. So specifically service, software and construction, these were the two kind of segments wherein there used to be double taxation. Okay, so the companies also never used to take a risk. They used to collect both the taxes from the buyer because ultimately they had to pay taxes to the government, right? So they never used to say that, okay, we'll collect only at 100 value and extra will pay. Why will they pay? So they used to collect both taxes from the customers. Then no SENVAT credit after manufacturing state. मतलब मैन्युफैक्चर हो गया उसके बाद जो परचेज करेगा अगर वो मैन्युफैक्चर रहेगा तो उसको क्रेडिट मिलेगा, लेकिन अगर वो सामने वाला डीलर रहेगा तो जो मैं एक्साइज ड्यूटी चार्ज करता हूँ वो उसको क्या पड़ जाएगा, कॉस्ट पड़ जाएगा. So if I'm a manufacturer, I used to charge excise duty. If the buyer is a manufacturer, then he can claim credit. But if he's a trader, he never used to get the credit of it. Okay, so that was the problem with no SENVAT after manufacturing stage. No set off of SENVAT and VAT. Okay, we have seen, no? So SENVAT and VAT. SENVAT or central value added tax, polo, excise, polo. Excise duty was not fungible, was not creditable with VAT. We have seen in the example, no? In pre-GST, the excise manufacturer will charge SENVAT and VAT, of which only VAT can be get offset, but SENVAT was never offset. Okay, and when I'm charging excise duty, I can claim credit only of excise duty. I cannot claim credit of VAT. So VAT and excise were two different taxes, but were not interchangeable or not getting offset with each other. Then no integration of VAT and service tax. क्या होता था पहले? If I am a buyer of goods, okay, I buy goods and I'm a trader. Okay, if I'm a trader, I am selling goods. So I will get credit under VAT only of the goods. So if I am a dealer of, say, mobile phones, and I avail the services of a consultant, I avail services of an accountant who is charging me service tax, that taxes, I cannot claim it against my sale of mobiles. That was just to become my cost. And similarly, a service provider, if he's buying basic computers, if he's buying laptops, he's buying some stationery, he never used to get the credit of those because those were all goods. So taxes on goods couldn't be claimed as a credit against my outward services. Okay, so that was not integrating with each other. VAT was VAT, service tax was services. A person who's providing services can claim credit only of service tax which was charged on him. So there was no integration at all between VAT and service tax. Okay. Then non-inclusion of local levies in state VAT. State VAT also, they used to have various taxes like luxury tax, entertainment tax. That also you never used to get a credit because they said that luxury tax, even though it is charged by the government, like suppose I paid under VAT system some hotel accommodation and they used to charge me luxury tax. Boss, I've paid taxes, now give me the credit. No, against my VAT payment, no, not available. Saying that luxury tax is one stage tax, you will not get a credit of it. Okay, so you never used to get the credit of luxury tax against your VAT payment also. Then cascading of taxes. How cascading of taxes happen? Levy of non-VATable CST, right? So first we'll cover this inclusion of SENVAT in value for imposing VAT, right? You have seen that first example, 1,000 rupees on 1,000 rupees excise duty of say 10%, 1,100. VAT was levied on 1,100, not on 1,000. So there was cascading of taxes, taxes on taxes lagta tha. Then similarly on CST, CST is a tax on interstate transfer. When I used to sell goods from Karnataka to Madhya Pradesh, I will charge CST at 2%. And on this 2%, the buyer cannot claim the credit. So it was non-VATable CST, which means it was non-creditable central sales tax, which was levied. The rate was low, but still it was non-creditable to the buyer. So that these were all the lacunas which levied, which gave way to the new GST system. Questions? What are the questions here? If proprietor buys TV for personal use, but under firm number, can he claim ITC against supply of goods? Legally, no, because you can give the credit, you can give the GST number, but you are not using it for your business, so you cannot claim the credit. Sir, one deficiency is that CG and ST both charge different VAT on same product. Bhumika, I didn't get your question. Can you please clear this? What is the meaning of RCM? We'll read this RCM in the charge charge chapter, Rajesh. RCM means reverse charge mechanism, which means I pay GST on reverse charge instead of forward charge, right? When I'm selling goods, I pay GST on my supplies, right? But in reverse charge, when I sell something, I don't pay the tax. My recipient will pay the tax, or the buyer will pay tax. That is a system of reverse charge mechanism that is applicable on certain goods and certain services, not on everything. If there are such deficiencies in the original, why is it implemented in the first place, sir? After it is implemented, that is when that was a system. And why it was implemented, it was just there like that. That's how we'll have to evolve over the time, right? So that's been evolved and now GST has come in. सर जो आपने एक्सेल शीट दिखाई है वो समझ नहीं आया. एक्सेल शीट में मैंने यही दिखाया है कि टैक्स कैसे लगता है, टैक्स आपको कब भरना पड़ता है और बायर क्या चार्ज करेगा और रिसीवर को क्या क्रेडिट मिलेगा, वो ही मैंने समझाया है. इसमें बहुत सिंपल है कि आप जब भी सप्लाई कुछ करते हो तब आपको आउटपुट टैक्स भरना पड़ता है, और जो भी चीज आप खरीदते हो when I purchase any product for sale and paid GST upon it, but I use it for personal use, then we get ITC or not for that? Nahi, then you don't get the credit of that. Any goods you purchase and use it for your personal consumption, on that credit is not claimable. अनुपम जी, मैं जहां हो सकता है हिंदी यूज कर रहा हूं, ठीक है. Please explain the non-integration point. Non-integration of VAT and service tax. So what I was trying to say is VAT used to get, a person who used to sell goods used to claim credit only on goods. If he is taking any services on which service tax was charged, he was not getting credit of that. Okay, so that's how VAT and service tax was not getting integrated. Okay. Clear, Yashika and Darshan, on the non-integration part. What is tax beyond C? Tax beyond C is a concept wherein there is a double impact of taxation. Okay, that is the meaning of tax beyond C. Any more questions? Okay, with the aspect of tax beyond C, it means collection, more of a collection. So it's an tax beyond C is an indicator to measure efficiency. So how efficient is a tax, right? A tax will be said to be beyond or will be efficient if the tax revenues increase more than proportionately in response to the rise in revenue. So if the tax is increasing at a higher percentage than the growth of the country, then it's called tax beyond C. Firstly, when manufacturer produce a good, he pays excise duty, but it is not credit back, and then he pays GST and get credit back at sales. And this chain continues on every transaction. Correct, but not GST, VAT, right? Earlier used to be excise and VAT, and he will get credit back at sales, and this chain continues every transaction. Correct. So that was there in VAT. Now excise duty is not there, VAT is not there, only GST is there. Okay. Can you please explain non-VATable CST? Yeah. what is CST is a tax which is on goods. I said no, that on my sale of goods, I will get credit of any goods I purchase. So goods against goods, I should get the credit. But if I sell or buy any goods interstate, okay, if I buy any goods from your state of say Gujarat to Karnataka, Gujarat, say when I purchase anything in Karnataka, from Gujarat, when you sell, you will have charge CST of 2%. This is also goods. I should get the credit. But CST was levied by the central government and VAT was levied by the state government. So this CST, what I used to make payment on my purchase, was also not creditable. So CST credit also was not fungible with my VATable goods. So that's how it is said that levy of non-VATable CST. CST was charged on goods, but it was non-creditable to me. Clear? Sir, if I have insurance on goods, I paid the GST on it. Can I claim the input on it? Yes, insurance on goods, you can claim it. Diksha Agarwal, crystal clear, sir. Very nice. It is really good. SENVAT is same like CGST? No, SENVAT is excise. It is not like CGST. Sir, can you please explain how the IGST is distributed between state and central government? Yeah, we will see that in the thing. I'll give you another example. That IGST, what is collected, is not remaining with the center. It gets distributed between the center and the state. Depends on where the consumption happens. So if I'm selling goods from Karnataka to Maharashtra, I am collecting what? IGST, correct? To collect this IGST, the buyer will offset the input credit. Okay, so when he offsets the credit, the government has to let go something. So when it let goes, the government will pass on the benefit to it and give it to the other state. So we will understand it with an example. So it will be clear to you. Okay. So we understood the deficiencies in VAT system. Good. Please answer my query also. Yes, Yashika, what is your query? It's written in module that it will lead to loss of taxes to the state. Yeah, which will lead to the loss of taxes, the earlier taxes, right? VAT isn't integrated. So when VAT wasn't integrated service tax, then it was not benefit to the government because they never used to get the credit. Then what will happen? People will stop buying things. So that's how there was to be a loss to the government. Okay. Yashika, please explain your question properly. VAT was also an indirect tax. Yes, Divyanshi, VAT was also an indirect tax because when you buy something, you used to pay VAT. Yeah. So CST, VAT, all of this are indirect tax itself. Okay. Fine. Yashika, you can type your question. I'll answer at the end as we proceed further. So now we understand the framework of GST in India, dual GST, right? What is dual GST? Central and state both collect GST. CGST and SGST is on intrastate. If it is a union territory, then it will be CGST and UTGST. And if it is interstate, it will be IGST. What happens if it's a supply between? So, okay, let me wait for some answers. What happens if it's a transfer sale of goods between one state to another union territory? Okay, I'm not getting answers here. Maybe it's a delay. So any transfer between one state to union territory, also the state, right? We know that who will collect it? The supplying state, the seller state, the state from where I'm selling will collect IGST itself. Okay. So from one state to another union territory, IGST. From one union territory to another union territory, also IGST. Okay. Any movement between a state to another state or state and union territory is a IGST transaction because one union territory to another union territory are different, located in different locations, right? So they will still charge IGST itself. dual GST, CGST, legislative framework. We have understood the legislative framework, how the law is framed. Then classification of goods and services. There is a difference between goods and difference between services. In terms of legislative framework, you have to understand that there are different laws, CGST, SGST, UTGST. All of this will be on the same ground, and the taxes are on interstate transactions. It is all guided in the integrated goods and service tax. What is imports? What are the tax? What are exports? Who will pay taxes on interstate supply? Who will pay taxes on intrastate supply? All of this is defined in the IGST. Classification of goods and services. So there is a clear classification of goods and services because the rate of tax is dependent on goods or services. Okay. Then registration. Every person who is doing any supply has to get registered. So in registration chapter, you'll see that there are various limits of registration. So if you cross that limit, only then you have to register, otherwise it is not necessary. Okay, so it is generally 20 lakhs and 40 lakhs, 20 lakhs for services and 40 lakhs for goods. But special category states have separate threshold, which means what? If I cross this threshold, I have to register. Okay, so registration also means that once I register and if my value goes down, can I get excluded from non-payment? Can I get exclusion from payment? Can I say that my limits is low, so if it's below 10 lakhs, I will not pay? No. So once you're registered, you are always have to be compliant. You cannot say that I have registered and my value has gone down, so I have not collected. Not possible. Once you have registered, you have to pay GST always there. But if my value goes down consistently every year, then you can surrender and cancel your registration, but there is no escape route. Once you have registered, paid, if your values are going down, then come out of it. Okay. Composition scheme. What is composition scheme? That there are some sectors, right? Tradings and manufacturers who are small scale, right? But small scale is defined as up to 1.5 crores. So if there's a trader or manufacturer who's having sale transactions up to 1.5 crores, they can come into a special scheme as composition scheme. Okay, if you're on there under composition, you pay lower taxes. You don't get the input tax credit, but your taxes are chotu sa, very small. You pay a small taxes called as composition taxes there. Okay, so if I sell, say, a goods which is at 18%, and if I'm registered under composition scheme, I'm a small fellow. I will not make sale more than 1.5 crores. Then I can pay taxes of just 1% on it. But the catch is this 1% you cannot collect from your buyer. You have to pay it from your pocket. Okay, na? You are not paying 18%. आपको इतना tax compliance करने की जरूरत नहीं है. It is very simple. So you get this benefit of composition scheme. Then you have exemptions. Now exemptions means I'm selling some goods. I'm providing some services. Okay, but government is giving me an exemption. हम exemption chapters में भी पढ़ेंगे ये बात. Like exemption for goods is not there for the P2 level, but that's there at a final level. But at this level, you have to understand that there is exemption on services. Exemption means what? The rate of tax is 18%, but there is an exemption notification which says that if you do kind of supply, say a hospital makes any supply, right? It is taxable, but there is an exemption notification because of which the services are exempt. Goods, agriculture goods are all taxable because it says everything is taxable except what is there under the exemption list. So if it is fitting under the exemption list, there is a schedule of a notification number 1 of 2017, which says that whatever products, what is the rate in that. So if it falls under that, then you will be exempted. Seamless flow of credit. We have seen that seamless flow of credit means seller is giving it to buyer, buyer will buy it, he will again sell it. This credit chain flows. Thus, there is a seamless flow of input tax credit. So how does this flow of credit works? Understand this very clearly. You have a input tax credit. Okay, input tax credit means when I purchase, whatever taxes I pay, okay, whatever expenses I do, that time also I pay. whoever collects taxes from me and for whom those are the products or services which I consume is input tax credit to me. Now, you have gone to a restaurant person will charge you 2.5% CST, CGST, 2.5% SGST. There is a bifurcation. So these two credits are separate. So you have three buckets, CGST, SGST, and IGST. So these credits, how you can utilize is what we'll see. These are all common pool. You don't have to bifurcate that I have taken input tax credit on purchases, input tax credit on expenses separately. No, all of this is one common pool called CGST. Now this CGST input tax credit, how I utilize? I will utilize for payment of my output CGST. If you have any output CGST, you pay it first. Then if there is still some credit lying, use this credit for paying of IGST. Use the like credits with like output. CGST against CGST, IGST against IGST, SGST against SGST. Then if something is left out, then we'll see. Like in this case, first CGST was utilized with CGST, then with IGST. Then similarly, SGST, you have input, claim it for payment of outward SGST. Then whatever is left, you pay with use for payment of outward IGST. Then IGST, whatever is the input tax credit, you utilize against payment of outward IGST, like with like, that's the first rule. Then unlike, you can utilize IGST is a special scenario, so you can utilize for payment of CGST and SGST in any order. Okay, this you can utilize in any order. Yes. Any questions on this input tax credit? Are there separate tax? Yes, these 3, 4 are separate tax, right, Darshan? Dual GST क्या है कृष्णा? Dual GST है कि जब मैं इंटरस्टेट सप्लाई करता हूँ विद इन वन स्टेट टू अनदर स्टेट, इंटरस्टेट तो एक ही टैक्स लगता है IGST. इंट्रा स्टेट जब मैं विद इन द स्टेट कुछ सप्लाई करता हूँ एक ही स्टेट में, मुंबई से नासिक अगर मैं कुछ सेल करता हूँ तो फिर मुझे इंट्रा स्टेट कहा जाएगा और मेरे को CGST और SGST दो टैक्स लगेंगे, इसे कहते हैं डुअल GST. ठीक है. Is GST also required for MSMEs? Yes, जैसे मैंने कहा था भूमिका लिमिट है, so if you are below that limit then you don't have to register. Otherwise MSME या हो या कुछ भी हो, you have to take registration. What is tariff? Tariff is the rates. Okay, तो कस्टम्स में टैरिफ बुक आता था, कस्टम्स टैरिफ आता है, लेकिन जीएसटी में रेट जो है वो एक नोटिफिकेशन में दिया है, उसे कहते हैं टैरिफ. Yashika, your question. VAT is not integrated with service tax at state level. Yeah, VAT was not integrated with service tax at the state level before GST. Though it's the fastest growing sector, it will lead to loss of huge amount of tax to the state. How does it lead to huge loss of tax? Service tax isn't changed by tax. Yeah, service tax is not charged by tax by states. Service tax is a central revenue. So that's the reason, even though in my state, say Hyderabad, there was huge boom of IT sector. So there were a lot of companies which were setting it up, but all the revenues, what they were paying service tax, they were providing services, service tax they were paying, and the revenue used to go to the central government, and there was huge loss to the state government because these people will not pay VAT, and the state were accommodating them. So that's the reason there was a loss to the state government because they were not paying any VAT, because VAT only used to go to the state government. Is it clear? Suraj, what do you want me to explain again? That threshold limit is for the amount of goods supplied or the turnover? Turnover, that's the value of goods. Flow of credit. Flow of credit, very clear. Very clear. Input tax credit is a common bucket. From this bucket, you will utilize, right? I will give it another try with an example. IGST input tax credit. I have the credits with me. This IGST I will utilize first for IGST payment first, then for utilization of CGST and SGST. Okay, you will claim this credit against your output in any order. Okay. Now. Okay. A lot of people saying understood, but few are saying फिर से क्रेडिट है। सो कृष्णा बगारिया जी, मैं आपके लिए और दूसरे मौसम मौसम सबके लिए एक एग्जांपल दूंगा तो कि आप ठीक से समझ सके। आईपीएल का सीजन चल रहा है, लेकिन क्रिकेटर्स तो मैं पुराना ही यूज करूंगा क्योंकि मैं पुराने क्रिकेटर्स का फैन हूँ। ठीक है। सो देर इज अ सप्लाई। ओके, आई हैव टू शेयर द स्क्रीन अगेन। ओके, सो एक्सेल शीट आपको दिख गया होगा। आई एम शेयरिंग माई एक्सेल शीट। हाउ डज द टैक्सेस वर्क? So there is a supply within the state. Rahul Dravid and Anil Kumble both are in Karnataka, right? Rahul Dravid is selling some goods to Anil Kumble. What is the value of supply? 10,000 rupees worth of goods he's supplying. Say on this product, the VAT rate, GST rate is 18%. So he's charging CGST at 9% and SGST at 9%. So 9 plus 9 makes it 18%. He's charging it. How much he's charged? 1,800. What is the price charged totally? 11,800. So what is he charging? CGST 900, SGST 900. How much is the going to the central? Central will get this portion, correct? So this one is center and this one is say state. Okay? 900 goes to the central government and 900 go to the government of Karnataka. Okay? Now, next is okay. Now next, come to when Anil Kumble supplies it to Virendra Sehwag, who's in Delhi, right? When I'm supplying from Karnataka to Delhi, what will I charge? IGST. We know this, correct? It will not be CGST, SGST. I have to charge IGST. So he is supplying this goods. Anil Kumble, what he received from Rahul Dravid, he is supplying to Sehwag at 12,000 rupees. So the value of supply is 12,000 rupees. What is the charge? 18%. 18% on 12,000 is 2,160. I'll charge 2,160. Now, how much will I pay? I will pay IGST to the central government. So central government, 2,160 is my output tax. Correct? But I have already the credit. No, I have purchased from Anil Kumble. Anil Kumble had purchased from Rahul Dravid. What did we say? The bucket of CGST should be utilized with first CGST. इस केस में कुछ CGST है नहीं है, so I will utilize with the other bucket, which is IGST. Credit of CGST, I will utilize your 900. Then credit of SGST also, I've said that SGST bucket should be utilized with SGST. Then with first with SGST. Do I have any SGST here? No. So I can utilize for payment of IGST. So I will utilize for payment of IGST. So out of this 2,160, what I have to pay, I will utilize 900 of CGST, 900 of SGST. So balance payable is how much? 360. So this 360, what I'll pay through cash. I don't have credit. Itna bhi credit tha, I have exhausted. I had 1,800 credit. So I've exhausted this 1,800 credit and 360 I have to pay. So I will pay 360. So this C360 will go to the whom? To the central government. IGST is going to the central government. Now, what I should have paid? 2,160, correct? So out of this 2,160, when I pay IGST, I'm utilizing the credit of CGST and SGST. CGST ka credit theek hai, within the state government to state government, no problem. But this credit of SGST, Karnataka government had got it when there was an intrastate supply. Now it is becoming an interstate supply, correct? Intrastate supply tha, now I am making an interstate supply. So I am paying IGST. So what will the government do? When I'm offsetting this credit, it will take out from the Karnataka and give it to the central government. Why? Because when somebody had bought it, first sale before this was government revenue to Karnataka government. Now it is changing from Karnataka government to a central government levy, that is IGST levy. So it will take that credit from the government and give it to the center. So that's how this 2,160 will get covered to the central government. How? 360 from here and 900 transferred from Karnataka to central government, because government has to get 2,160, right? Effectively, after all this credit. So it will take the credit from the Karnataka and settle it. So at the back end, it will do, but for us to understand the back end, we have to see how it works. Okay, so I will pay IGST 2,160 by utilizing the credit of SGST and 900 of CGST. CGST to this, I don't have to do any adjustment because it is both central government, no problem. But this from one state to another state, I have to do this adjustment. Okay, this will all happen at the back end, but I will have to pay IGST. That's all. Right? Now, this person, Sevag, is supplying it to Ishan Sharma, who is also in Delhi. He's supplying the same goods at what price? 14,400. On this, he will charge CGST as 9% and SGST at 9%. Right? So total price charge is 16,992. I'm charging this. Now, how much is the CGST payable? Now, here you have two taxes again, because this is within the state. Sevag to Ishan Sharma, both are in Delhi. Within the state, how much? 9%, 9%. So 9% first of CGST payable of 9,296. But I have credit of what? I have credit of IGST. Why? Because Anil Kumble had charged to Sevag IGST, which is 2,160. Now this 2,160, I will utilize how much? CGST, IGST credit against IGST. Here I don't have any IGST payable. I have CGST payable. So pay CGST of 1,096, 1,296 I've utilized here. Okay. So use this credit. So CGST payable kuch hai? No, nothing is payable. SGST 1,296. But how much credit can I use? Whatever I have. I have credit of 2,160, of which I have used 1,296. So please reduce this 1,296. Balance of 864. 864 is what I will pay here. I will utilize the credit. Balance of 432 I will pay, because I have to pay that much, right? So I'll pay that much. This credit of 864 has to go to the state government. Why? I have utilized the IGST credit and paying state government. So state government too should get 1,296 in effect. So they are getting here by transfer of IGST 864 and state government, and 1,296 is going to the central government. That's how the credit works. That's how the IGST model works. Clear with this? Where to pay by Anil Kumble? Please explain. IGST where to pay by Anil Kumble. So Anil Kumble, if he's selling it to outside the state, right? So we saw here Anil Kumble is selling it to Sevag. So he's paying IGST of 2,160. So he'll go to the portal. He'll just mention that it's an interstate supply. So there it will capture IGST 2,160. While you're making payment, it will say that, okay, please utilize the credit of CGST, utilize the credit of SGST, and 360 you pay through portal. That amount is 360. It will go to the IGST account. Okay, for us, it is very easy because we will file all of this and make all this payment on the GST portal. This is the backend. So backend, if you see, it's so very complicated. I tried to simplify it and explain it to you. Darshan understood. Very nice. Is this compulsory sequence that IGST will first use for IGST, then with CGST, and then with SGST, or we can claim it in any section? No. Vinay, IGST should be utilized with IGST, then with CGST and SGST in any order, but IGST should be first utilized with IGST, then with CGST and SGST in any order. Clear. Can we adjust SGST and CGST payable for UTGST? No. See, if you see the chart, you can utilize IGST, CGST, and SGST, but you will see that there is no cross linkage between CGST and SGST. So you cannot utilize CGST with SGST, and SGST you cannot utilize with CGST. Wherever there's a union territory, the SGST would get replaced with UTGST. So when I'm making an intrastate supply in a union territory, I will charge UTGST and CGST. Correct? Good. So shall we get back to our presentation? Sir, explain again. Sehwag to Ishan sale within Delhi. Okay. Sehwag to Ishan sale within Delhi. He will charge what? CGST and SGST, because within the state you have to charge CGST and SGST. So he will charge CGST and SGST. Now, how is this payable? When first is how you have to see. So you don't have to see at this back end part. From this column onwards, you don't have to see. This is only for your understanding. Okay. But to make your understanding clear, you have to first see this and then that. CGST payable, how much? 1296. So 1296 is payable. But should I pay this through my bank account? No, because I already have a credit. How much is the credit I have? There is some person who has charged me IGST of 2160. That 2160, I will get the benefit. Okay. Out of this 1296, I will utilize 1296 credit from this 2160 because that is lying in my credit. That is my input tax credit. 1296 mein I will utilize the credit. No CGST is payable, but SGST is payable. How much is the SGST payable? 1296. Now, how much credit can I use? Whatever I have. I have 2160, correct? So 2160 minus 1296, balance of 864. That is what I'm utilizing here. Okay. So this 864 I will utilize. So all my credit is finished. Abhi kya karna padega? I have to now make the payment from bank. I will make the payment from bank of 432 rupees. Okay. I'll share the Excel sheets of the class. Sure. These Excel sheets also I'll convert into PDF because I'm supposed to share PDF. So I will convert this into PDF and share it. You have to use IGST equally to settle CGST and SGST. No, Mayur, you can utilize in any proportion. You can utilize 90% CGST, 10% SGST, vice versa. Anyways, it's possible. Navneeta Krishnan, did you understand? So if I don't have any IGST payable in month, then can I directly set off IGST to CGST and SGST? Yes, you can set off. What if Steve Smith, Australia, supplied to Dhoni in India? Very good question. So if a person from Australia is supplying it to a person in India, there are two things what he can supply. He can supply goods. So if he's selling goods, it will come to the customs port. Customs, there is one inspector standing there saying that clearing any goods, come on, pay me customs duty. Only then I will let you clear goods. So he'll be standing here in between your imported goods and your consumption. He will tell, pay me customs duty. Yes, take customs duty. Okay, go. No, don't go. Still, there is a blockage. You have paid customs duty. Now you pay me. You will go and utilize these goods. My poor citizens of India are sitting there and selling goods and they're paying GST. You fellow, you are importing goods and you're not paying any GST. No, I will collect more taxes from you. What taxes you will collect, sir? Sir, I will collect from you IGST. So on any importation, customs duty also I have to pay and I have to pay IGST only. If I pay these two taxes, then he will open the gate and he will clear the goods within India. Okay. So on importing of goods, customs duty fellow will be there. He will charge customs duty and IGST. Okay. Now goods, fine, sir. Inspector is standing, sir, but I am smart. I am a CA student. I will not bring that goods in goods. I will bring it in my software. I will tell him to send that opinion on my email so that this customs fellow will not catch, sir. Okay. So you import something on my email. I will get the same report. So this is, but you will make the payment, no, Baba. When you make the payment, this will be called as an import of service. Whether you make payment or no, ethically, it is a import of service. Sir, import of service coming through email. It has come through email. Yes. It is import of service. Yes. Customs duty is payable. No. Customs duty is only on goods. So no customs duty payable. So customs duty is not there. So no IGST. No. When I import services, customs duty not payable, but I have to pay IGST on import. This is called as reverse charge. That supplier is not paying, but importer is paying. This is called reverse charge. So if I'm registered, I will pay it. If I'm not registered, then I don't pay it. Okay. Sir, if I don't have any IGST paper, then I will be directly sort of yes, cleared. Darshan, your question cleared. What if third transaction is interstate? If third transaction is interstate, madam, then I will pay IGST. IGST, if I have to pay, then I can claim the IGST credit. I will claim the IGST credit and pay it. If there is a shortfall, I will pay the differential in cash. If intrastate sale, we need to pay SGST, and if interstate sale, we need to pay IGST. Is it correct? Yes, correct. So, for example, if IGST credit is 1,000, CGST is 1,000, and SGST is 300, then can we pay 700 for CGST and 300 for SGST? Yes, Sayed, you can. Okay. Reverse charge not clear. Suraj Ji, reverse charge is tax. When we go to charge, I'll explain this in detail so that you'll understand it more clearly there. Okay, so this is clear. Now let's get back to our presentations. Now, apne presentation mein, we will study the part on constitutional provisions. Why? Because constitutional other aspects are all theoretical, which you can understand yourself. You're all smart enough. Lekin constitutional provisions are important. I'll not take much time, around 10 minutes extra I will take to understand this constitutional provisions. Okay. Now this constitutional provisions, we have Indian government. Within the Indian government, we have three governments, right? Union government, which is the central government, state government, and local government, which is the local municipalities. The constitution has a preamble. It has 25 parts, 448 articles, and 12 schedules. Why is it important? Because everything has to be there in the constitution, not only our taxation, right? Everything, judicial system, how will the country function, what are the things, what are the problems happens, what will happen, everything is mentioned in the constitution. That's why the constitution is the mother, called as the basic structure of the country, which is decided in the constitution, right? Now, what is meaning of ultra vires? Some important term to understand. Ultra vires means anything which is beyond the powers is called as ultra vires. So there is this article called Article 265, which says prohibits arbitrary tax collection. ऐसा नहीं हो सकता है कि the constitutional amendment didn't happen and GST is collected. Not possible, because the GST did not have power under the constitution. There should be a power which should be in the constitution, which is very, very important. So this power is given under this Article 265, which says that no tax shall be levied or collected except by the authority of law. Agar GST law, if I would have passed without the constitutional amendment, it would have been unauthorized collection. That's why this amendment was required. So Article 265, which is a very important article in the Constitution, says that no tax shall be levied or collected except by the authority of the law. Like, take this example, sugar mills case, whereas sugar merchants had to pay some meet some export targets before, very, very old case, wherein they said that sugar merchants has to pay some export targets. If you don't meet your export fellows, I will collect some extra money from you. So some government used to collect it. So then they challenged it, saying that can they collect it? This matter went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court said that you cannot do any of this collection. Where do you have the power to collect this? You set the target, very good, but none of the laws said you to collect any taxes, so you cannot collect it. So in Lord Krishna Sugar Mills case, they said that any taxes which you collect more beyond your power, which is beyond the act, is arbitrary, such taxes will be struck down. So they struck down, or they said no such tax can be collected. They demolished the tax because of this power of Article 265. No tax shall be levied or collected without the authority of law. So they said that this is ultra vires the powers, so it is not correct. Then in Tangkul versus Simarai Shailai case, they said that villages were paying ₹50 per day as a custom instead of free labor. So you have to do a labor work for me, otherwise you have to pay ₹50 for me. This also was struck down, saying that there's no such power you can do this collection of labor charges and all. This was also struck down under Article 265, right? Then you have constitutional provision which says that levy, for any levy means imposition of tax. For imposition, there has to be basic ingredients. What are the basic ingredients? There has to be a taxable event. There has to be a measure how you will collect. There has to be a rate of tax, and there will be a person who shall pay. Okay, so constitutional provisions or any taxation laws says that there has to be a taxable event. In GST, what is a taxable event? Supply. What is a tax measure? The rate of tax. If you supply goods, you have to pay 18%, 18%, 12%, or 5%. If you are providing services, you have to pay 18%. So there is a tax measure and there's a rate of tax. Tax measure is the base on which you have to pay. So tax measure under services is on the value of service or necessary for any levy. Okay. Then you have Article 245, which says that Parliament shall make the laws for the whole of the country. State government will make laws for the states, and no law made by the Parliament shall be invalidated. So if there is any law which is beyond the territory of India, which will be, it will not be invalid because it is extraterritorial. Matlab, you cannot argue later on saying that it is extraterritorial, so I will not pay taxes. Government has the power to levy taxes beyond India. How does it collect taxes beyond India? Like when I importing, the seller is outside India, but still I'm collecting taxes. So that is extraterritorial, but still permitted, right? Then Article 246 says that provides authority to union and state government for levying taxes, right? Article 246 says that I'll give you three lists: union list, state list, and concurrent list. This is the same article which I referred there. Article 246 says that I'll give you three lists: union list, service tax, you collect; VAT, state government, you collect; GST. Nowhere there was a mention of GST in your list 1, list 2, list 3. But list 3 was concurrent list. Can I fit it in, sir? Because both central and state government is collecting. Put this GST in this concurrent list. No, you cannot put the GST under concurrent list because both will have equal power. But concurrent list did not have that. So what they did, they thought too much. For 10 years they thought. And then they brought in one new article called Article 246A. So this Article 246A, they brought in and they said, this new article will bring in and we will give power to both state government and the central government to collect taxes. That's the reason the old articles will not help. That's the reason this amendment happened to bring in this new article called Article 246A, wherein central government and state government will both have power to collect taxes on a supply which is intrastate. Okay, so Article 246A gives power to central government and state government to collect this taxes. Then levy and collection of GST on interstate supply and import. Then they said, okay, CGST I will charge, SGST I will charge, no problem, no fighting. But if it is an interstate supply, the fight will start. One state will say, give revenue to me. Then one state will say, give revenue to me. So whom to give? So they decided that the Article 269A gives the power of GST on interstate supply, gives power to central government to collect taxes on any interstate supply. Okay, so there'll be no fight. Central government will collect it and distribute it, right? So that's how this 269A came in, and they said on interstate supply and on importation, taxes will go to the central government. Then this Article 279A gave power to a new body called as GST Council, and this GST Council will have special powers. Okay, now we'll read the articles quickly. Article 246A says, notwithstanding anything in 246 and 254, which means whatever is there in 246 and 254, don't read it for reading this Article 246A, because those powers were separate. That powers and this power don't match. So for reading this article, that article will not be relevant. So here it says, notwithstanding anything in 246 and 254, Parliament, which is the central government, and the legislature of the state, which means the state government, central government and state government has the power to make laws with respect to goods and service tax imposed by the union or such states. So clear now? So central government and state government both will have power. In Article 246, such power was not there. 246A, new power is given. And Parliament will have exclusive power to make laws with respect to goods and service tax, where the supply of goods or services are both takes place in the course of interstate trade or commerce, which means Parliament means what? Central government. Central government will have exclusive power to make any kind of laws with respect to interstate trade. In case of interstate trade, what is levied? Integrated tax, which is by the central government, right? Then Article 269A says that GST on supplies in the course of interstate trade or commerce shall be levied, collected by the Government of India, central government, and such tax shall be apportioned between the union and states in the manner which will be decided by the GST Council. Okay. Then Article 269 said that, then they gave an explanation that for the purpose of this clause, supply of goods or services are both in the course of import shall be deemed to be interstate. So any kind of import is deemed as an interstate in the constitution itself. Okay. Then Article 269A said that GST on supplies in the course of interstate trade and commerce shall be collected by the government and shall be apportioned. Then this explanation. Then they said where any amount is collected as IGST has been used for payment of SGST or IGST, that is that what we do offset will not form part of consolidated fund of India. It will go to that respective state government. So that is how this is seen. Article of 249A, Article 269A, then Article 279A. It basically says that there will be formed a body called GST Council. Who will be the chairperson? Finance Minister. Who will be the members? Main members from all the states will be its members. Okay. Then special category states also it's considered, that I will discuss during registration, not to worry over here. Then it says that what is the powers? Power says that 1/2 of the voting will be with the 1/2 of the total number of members of the GST Council shall constitute members. Quorum. Quorum means what? What is the minimum number of members? 50% members should come. Only then we can hold a meeting. Then decision. So decision, how it will happen? Majority of not less than 3/4 of the weighted votes of the members present, at least for any resolution, 75% or 3/4 should be there as a to say yes. Only then it will be implemented. Now, how is the vote counted? The vote of the central government will have 1/3 of the vote. 1/3 out of 1/3 divided to 3. 1/3 will be central government and 2/3 will be the state government's vote. That is how the GST Council will work. So that is what we have for introduction completed by now. In malls, why is GST charged on MRP? MRP means maximum retail price. They cannot charge anything about that. If there is something charging above that, then you have to complain. Okay. Any doubts till now? After this, multiple choice questions are there, which I will share it with you. I think once I share the presentation, you can read through that. Okay, we have time. By the time few people have questions, we could go through the multiple choice questions. Which article of the Constitution contains the power to make laws with respect to GST? Just now we have discussed. This everybody will answer. 5 more minutes for multiple choice questions. What is the difference between GST Common Portal and GSP and ASP? GST Common Portal is the portal where we will file the returns. So that's the website's name where we will file the returns, Divyanshi. And GSP and ASPs are those people, GST Suvidha providers are those people who will integrate the data between the GST portal and your system, because there'll be huge number of data which you have to put it to the system, right? So that linkage will happen through these GSP and ASP people. Okay, 246A, very good. Everybody is given a right answer. The article is 246A. GST came into force by which constitutional amendment bill? Or 101st or 122nd or 102nd Constitutional Amendment Bill. That's why I said you have to remember the bill separately, act separately. 122nd Amendment Bill, correct. Most of you have given correct answer. Few have said 101. No, it's not 101 Constitutional Amendment Bill. 101 Constitutional Amendment Act, but the bill is 122nd Amendment Bill. Correct answer is D. GST is one of the biggest taxation reforms of independent India, being implemented with the aim of enhancing the overall growth of the nation. It is a comprehensive dash indirect tax levy on goods as well as services at the which level? Is it supply based indirect tax and levied at national level, or is it destination based indirect tax levied at state level, or destination based indirect tax levied at national level, or is it a value based indirect tax levied at the state level? Correct answer. Diksha, your answer is wrong. C, D. No, it is correct answer is C. It is a destination based tax. Even though tax is collected, but it is a destination based tax because tax is getting getting like we saw from Bangalore to Delhi when the goods reach, the taxes reaches to Delhi. So it is a destination based tax and which is levied at the national level, not at the state level. At the whole India level, it is levied. So it is a destination based national level tax. Okay. India has adopted a dual model of GST where the tax is charged concurrently by the center and states. Therefore, for an intra-state sale, the GST on the, as per the CGST Act, is charged equally as what? CGST and IGST, SGST and IGST, CGST and SGST, or IGST and CGST. Fourth answer is B. Very simple. CGST and SGST. Very right. Fifth question. The uniform policy recommended by the GST Council on e-way bill being implemented all over the country will be totally. The correct answer is D. I will tell you because e-way bill we have not discussed. So e-way bill is basically a system wherein if I transfer any goods, along with the goods, I have to enter the data on a system called as e-way bill system. Okay. So this e-way bill system is eliminating the check post. The important aspect is try to eliminate the check post and breaking the entry barriers. How will they break the entry barriers? So that if any goods are coming, it will not be stopped. So that entry barriers is gone. There is no check post system now after the GST. Next question. Various taxes levied under different taxes have been subsumed under CGST and on the objective of one nation, one tax. However, certain items still continue to be taxed both under the central excise and GST. Okay, so for this, I will show you one slide which we had to skip because of this lapse of time. Yeah, this one. The taxes on goods and service tax. So GST is a tax on goods and service tax, except to the levy of exceptions. There are some exceptions. What are those exceptions? On alcoholic for liquor consumption, okay, there is no GST. You have state excise and VAT. Okay, on alcoholic liquor for GST consumption, you have state excise and VAT. On petroleum, crude, diesel, petrol, air turbine fuel, and natural gas, you have central excise duty and VAT or CST. CST will be if it is interstate supply and VAT if it is local supply. So petroleum products, central excise duty and VAT. So understand this, when you're buying any petrol, you're not paying any GST. You're paying still the old VAT and the central excise duty. On tobacco, you are paying central excise duty also and GST also. On opium, Indian hemp, you're paying state excise and GST. And on immovable property, no GST. Okay, so alcoholic liquor for human consumption, still excise and VAT, state excise, but that's not central excise. There is two things. State excise is separate, central excise is separate. State excise is levied on alcoholic liquor and on petroleum products, central excise and VAT. Why? Because this is a bigger source of revenue for the government. So they're still continuing. Once it gets integrated to GST, it will be GST. But as of now, it is still this. Tobacco, central excise and GST. Opium, health, state excise and GST. Okay. So we were on this item number 5 is over 6. So on what the question is, on what of the products central excise and GST is levied? Central excise and GST. Alcoholic liquor? No. On alcoholic liquor, state excise and GST. But on tobacco and tobacco products, central excise and GST is levied. Okay. So, okay. I think others are all simple questions which you can understand yourselves. So I will share this presentation. You could go through. Thank you very much. Any questions or something, we can take it up on the next class as well. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. Thank you very much.